Morning, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Maya, for hitting record. I forgot to let you know. Good morning, everybody. My name is Shapela Matsiam, also known as Chief Leanne Joe. I'm one of 16 hereditary chiefs of the Skoltemish Nation. I'm also a mother, a wife, a daughter, a trustee, board member, but more specifically for this particular session, I am your project lead for the Bridge to Gender Equality project of the Women in Leadership Foundation. Our funding sponsor is Women in Gender Equality Canada, also known as WAGE Canada. Welcome this morning to hear a bit more about our project and what we're doing, what we've done, and let's have at her. Okay. Just so you know, you are in the Transforming the Workplace information session. We'd like to do a quick land acknowledgement that Women in Leadership Foundation acknowledges that it is located, its head office operations is located in the traditional and unceded territory of the Okanagan Syilx speaking people. We recognize, honor, and respect the presence of all Indigenous people, past, present, and future. We're going to quickly jump in with a quick poll of the participants that are with us. Poll number 1. If we could launch that poll, can we answer this question? And that is, do you have a diversity, equity, and inclusion policy for your organization? Quickly answer yes, no, not sure. You're in the development of it or considering the development of it, and or you're implementing the actual policy and have that in effect. So let's just take a few seconds. And if you could quickly answer that, that'd be greatly appreciated. Michelle, have we gotten enough answers that we should post the results?
Yes, we do. Okay.
Okay, great.
A second.
Excellent. So we have a 44% of yes, 11% no, 22% unsure, 11% working on it, and have already implemented. Thank you so much for taking the time. These results are going to go into just our own internal uses as well. They will not be publicized, but will be shown, of course, throughout the presentation. So let's delve into the depths of what is the update on the Bridge to Gender Equality project. Just so you know, we've released the Champion Change for Women in the Workplace, your organizational guide to leadership. Currently, the English version of this document is available on the Women in Leadership website. As you can see, Michelle has posted a link to that guide. Our French version of that guide should be coming out very shortly. We're hoping before the end of the new year. We just had some hiccups over the summertime with our French translator being evacuated out of her home during the interior fires here in British Columbia. So there has been a bit of a delay, but it is coming very soon. Our calls to action, our current one is the Transforming the Workplace Pledge. We're seeking corporate participation for signing the Transforming the Workplace Pledge. Michelle will also post a link to that, hopefully, but you can find this pledge specifically in the Women in Leadership website. Download it, complete it, sign it, and you'll also see the benefits to signing that and how we're going to be in relationship with you after having signed the document. So please take a look at that. Currently, you're in the information session. session. We're also doing a Transforming the Workplace Allyship webinar on December 13th. More about that a bit later in the presentation. And we are hopefully doing some Transforming the Workplace Power of Five storytelling that will be coming hopefully in the near future. So, champion a change for women in the workplace, your organizational guide to leadership. This document was created as a result of the report that we put together last year around transforming the workplace. And you can also find that report in the project, Bridge to Gender Equality Project website on the Women in Leadership Foundation webpage. It's focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging work that is human rights focused, that is, of course, geared towards gender equity and equality due to, ongoing oppressive systems of colonization, patriarchy, and again, real intentional worldviews that is embedded in a majority of our systems. Although human rights efforts are primarily at a government level, companies have a responsibility to ensure inclusive and equitable environments. Through our report, you'll see that, of course, your employees, your staff, your executive, your board are probably also in the same spaces of demanding this of these environments of your organization within many workspaces at government levels, etc. The business case is well known that a diverse workforce, and more importantly, an inspired and happy diverse workforce, is a very productive workforce. I can attest to this. When I am keen and happy and feel like, especially when I feel like I belong within an organization, I generally give at least 110%, if not more. And that is, of course, to the benefit of that organization. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging initiatives work to ensure that legally there are no human rights violations, that there is zero tolerance for racism, discrimination, bullying, and such. And they've been internally focused. They've generally focused on recruitment and retention policies and procedures, employee support through initiatives like employee resource groups and events, and awareness through training, bearing the witness to lived experience, and garner empathy and compassion for fellow coworkers. Again, all of this is going to be found in your guidebook. Please download it and take a look at it. All of our report, as well as the research, the guidebook itself, and all of the work that we have done has been guided specifically by our Women in Leadership team, the advisory committee over the last two and a half years that it has included myself and many of these amazing women, and one gentleman that was a part of our team. We also have some past advisory and committee members that could not be with us that whole entire time, but are also listed here as well through their contributions for when they were working with us. So the guide itself is focusing on these key areas of equality, equity, and of course, equality and equity are not the exact same things, diversity, inclusion, allyship, which is extremely important, and belonging. Each of these are defined here in this space so that you can get a quick grasp of what each of them are if you don't already know that. But I'm going on the assumption that I'm not preaching to the choir here, that you already do know, or at least very curious about what each of these means in relationship to your workplace and providing an environment that focuses on all of these things. So champion the change for women in the workplace guidebook. The organizational guide was designed to implement diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging pillars within their workplace and to accelerate the changes needed to advance gender equality. This guide provides a 7-step process to assist organizational leaders in the implementation of these DEIB strategies and objectives that support gender equality within your workplace. The objective of this guide is for organizations to implement policies if you haven't already done so. Look to increase those types of policies within your organization that create that diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Also to look at the strategies needed to support those policies, to implement those policies, to create objectives and actionable spaces to support those long-term strategies, so that all of this can be managed realistically to affect change over a very long period of time. These resources can be adapted for organizations of any size or industry. This guide was designed as a supplement, like I said, to the report, which was also written by our project team after having done a year's worth of research. Again, both documents can be found on the Women in Leadership website, Bridge to Gender Equality webpage. Here's a bit of stats that have been garnered from our research. 5 out of 10 employees do not feel safe to address their concerns to their manager or human resource manager, which brings concerns around the policies or the lack thereof, or the policies that potentially need to have some deeper look at. If 50% of employees out there are not feeling like they can go to their organization around concerns that they have within their workforce, within their workplace. 37.4% of employees experienced exclusion from group activities or isolating behaviors. That's 1/3 of the total workforce population that is feeling like they don't belong, that they feel excluded. And that of course, can be due to numerous reasons within their workplace. 65% of survey respondents agreed that they witnessed an individual within an organization feel uncomfortable or out of place at work because of personal characteristics. And again, this goes to, again, discrimination, racism, our uncomfortableness with different things, or not knowing, or just fear, right? There's a lot of different behaviors that come up. Why 65% of our respondents stated this. 25% of employees experienced gaslighting when employers expressed having experienced racism. That's a really high percentage. I think this number indicates that the policies, strategies, objectives within a workforce, again, need a deeper dive lens highlighted to the change and shift in corporate culture, behavior, policies, support systems, etc., for these employees to have a safe space to go to deal with, what is rampant in our not only corporate cultures but our whole entire society in Canada. 41% of employees experience stereotypical assumptions about race, culture, and ethnicity. 55.6% of employees experienced inappropriate comments, slurs, or jokes within the workplace. And again, you're looking at really high numbers of women, young individuals, or multi-generational age ranges that have responded to these surveys state that they have faced something within the workforce. And the fact that this behavior isn't being called out, that there may not be safe spaces for them to address this without repercussion, without being isolated, without being gaslit, or without being oppressed in more ways, or cast aside by managers, executive board, and other employees, their peers within the workplace. I can state that as a woman of color, that, yeah, I understand, respect, and have experienced a majority of these, all of these within various workplaces over the years. And so this is not a new story. These are not new statistics. It's just that I think we've come to a place where we can really take a hard look at these, call these statistics out, share some truths around them, as well as then begin to look at how do we begin addressing this, and what is needed for us to reduce and eliminate, ideally, this type of statistics, truth telling, for future generations. We understand that this work doesn't happen overnight, but however, we do have the responsibility and the accountability to future generations to shift, transform, and change the future in which they are experience these things at a lower scale, or ideally eliminate. Poll number 2. Let's, Michelle, if we can launch into poll number 2.
You betcha. So I launched poll number 2 a little too early last time. So I am going to try to launch poll number 1. Hang on a second. I'm having a little difficulty here. Why does it not?
And if it doesn't launch, I mean, we can always.
I got it. Oh, no.
Okay, great.
Hang on. Here we go. Poll. This is poll number 1 for you all.
Oh, sorry. Okay, poll number 1. Do you have a diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging policy for your organization? Yes, you have a policy, a DEIB policy. No, you don't. You're unsure. You're working on developing the policy, or you're working on implementing that policy for your organization. I'll give you a few seconds to answer this question. And Michelle, as soon as everybody's answered, we can pop up the results. There you go. Excellent. We have a quarter and a quarter and a quarter for yes, no, and unsure, and working on implementing. That's a really good number. I appreciate that response. So on to, sorry, my mouse jumped ahead on me here. Our next slide is talking about the recommendations that we highlight specifically in the guidebook. Recommendation number 1 is create a corporate culture that is inclusive, providing equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities for all, everyone within and the relationship with the business and organization. So this really, this is a call to executive, to board, and all management, any leadership within a workplace organization, to really look at how they can play a role in creating that work environment, that corporate culture that has all of not only these diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, but really supports allyship, reduces barriers to discrimination, oppression, racism, you name it, like really looks at creating that equal and inclusive and belonging environment that everybody wants to be in. And this could, a specific call to action is equates to, leadership's accountability and responsibility is not just through the policies, but it may also be through, their bonuses, right? Meeting certain targets around this work, around the policy development, around reductions, and that sort of thing could be attached to the outcomes of leadership's decision making and that sort of thing. Recommendation number 2 is develop and implement policies creating equal access and opportunities for all to apply for positions, unbiased selection processes, flexible working opportunities, and promotion of all into leadership and board positions. That's one thing that we've seen in our research, is that this is still, I think, a very high need within many workforces, is to ensure that the organization is not only promoting the position in diverse places for many individuals to access and see, but they're clear on their salary opportunities, that they ensure that the individual who is looking to apply is attracted to the corporate culture, that they can see that on the websites, in the social media, in the policies, right? And that they have a completely unbiased selection process. We have some information in the guide, as well as in our resource sections, about how that can happen within your organization. Many young individuals, but even us, older individuals like myself, are very much looking for flexible working environments, meaning that we're able to live, work, and play in the communities of our choice, but also can work with organizations of our choice without having to pick up and move to huge, say, major metropolitan areas where we might not be able to afford to live, or may not want to raise our families in. So also, very importantly too, is that we're providing equal access to all diverse individuals, to women, women of color, Indigenous women, LGBTQ plus individuals, you name it, like that we are ensuring that equal access to executive leadership, C-suite level positions, and board positions not only are opened up to these individuals, but are supported. That's the key, is how the workforce and the workplace is supporting all of these women to move into and up within the organization. Whether it's in the same organization or not, whether it's, nonprofit, whether it's government, doesn't really matter. All of these spaces need to ensure that equal opportunity and equal access for growth is supported, as well as implemented through policies within the workforce. Recommendation number 3, provide support for all to thrive within an organization. That includes mental health supports, mentorship programming, coaching, flexible work environments, equal access to training, as well as education and skill development, applying alternative skills to the work environment, recognizing that there are many ways to apply skills in different scenarios. It's not specifically just the workforce and those harder skill sets that we're looking for within the organization, that the workforce sees other skill sets in different ways, such as cultural skill sets, language skill sets, softer skill sets. And there's just so many, especially for neurodivergent individuals. They have amazing skills that, again, our traditional systems don't recognize well. Implementation of your DEIB policies, strategies, and training consistently throughout your organization. So, what are the steps to implementing a diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging space within your organization? Step one, your team, the leadership team, your executive team, your board, all has to recognize this space, create the corporate culture for it, create the policies necessary, leading by example. So everything has to come from those human resources within the organization to build out this amazing space. Second, resources. You have to be, the organization, the workforce, the workplace has to be able to provide the human resources, funding, tools, guides, policies, etc. Like every resource needed to grow diversity, equity, inclusion within the workforce is absolutely necessary. Because if you're not dedicating and creating the accountability, the transparency, the responsibility across the whole entire organization, then it's not going to work. And I'm sure, hopefully, majority of you already know this and understand this. But this guidebook could be a little bit richer and deeper for you to look at what that might look like. Of course, accountability, that is through your policies. And this isn't just saying once you have a diversity, equity, inclusion policy, doesn't mean that you're fully in the space. So much more is required. But that the policies that need to be created create the accountability necessary for the executive and the whole entire team and the workforce to get behind and support. Step 4, setting diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategies and objectives to be met by the whole entire organization, by leadership, and for the board to review, in its policies around ensuring the accountability of leadership, and signing off of bonuses that are related to this specific work or other. Step 5, metrics to measure diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging objectives. We do have a beautiful metrics to measure in the guidebook. I ask you to, again, go to the guidebook and take a look at all of the metrics that we've provided for your organization to use as a support for this work. Step 6 is being able to communicate everything that's going on, what's being done, how it's being done, how does one get involved, how do you champion certain spaces, etc. As well as communication externally to the organization to let everybody know, like, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Especially for those that are looking for positions within your sector or within your workplace. So communication, both internally and externally, is very important. Long-term results, again, looking at, for me, it's about generational thinking. It's about how do we think beyond not only ourselves within this space, but again, future generations, your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, your great-grandchildren. What is the organization that you want to leave behind for them to be a part of, if they were to be a part of that space? And also that includes, your peers, families as well, the generations that may be working for the organization, not just your immediate family, but that's what generational thinking is that space of seeing beyond ourselves and our lifetimes. Our call to action is to be a part of the change. Our guide was designed to address these barriers and support organizations to make changes necessary to advance women's careers in the workforce, in the workplace. For organizational transformation to occur in your workplace, implement as many small steps, right? Large steps, big steps, corporate culture, but it's all of these mini little steps, these small steps that make everything possible. And make positive difference in the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging spaces within our workplaces. Our actual commitments is, 1, take a look at the report that was put out again a year ago, this newly released guidebook. And again, you can find the links that have been provided as well. We have tons of other resources in the project webpage. You're going to find a ton of resources, some policy examples, etc. Be a Bridge Through Gender Equity advocate and sign the Transforming the Workplace Pledge. Take this to your leadership. Ask them to commit by signing the pledge to this space. And then again, look to the supports of women in the leadership, not only over the next few months, but hopefully over the next few years, to the support required to achieve what you need to within your workplace. Engage in our programming, explore women in leadership resources, access our professional development, mentorship programs, post jobs with leading talent, look at our resource library, because we have done other projects. We have a diversity, equity, inclusion forum every single year. We're looking at future forums for the upcoming years. So there's like lots always going on within Women in Leadership. There's tons of webinars. The chapters within Women in Leadership are hosting events consistently for women in leadership. So again, there's lots to do and interact with in relationship with women in leadership. Become a partner, become a corporate sponsor of women in leadership as well. Without sponsorship, without these partners, and without these relationships, we don't reach a wider audience. And the commitments necessary come through these leaders in relationship as a partner to Women in Leadership Foundation. Strengthen your community investment by partnering. Like I said, follow us on all of our social media platforms, and spread the word, share all of the webinars that are going on, share that you've signed the Transforming the Workplace Pledge, share the guidebook, share the report. Again, become a part of our network, but also share with your networks this amazing work that we've been doing. Poll number 3, does your organization, Michelle, if you could launch poll number 3. And it is, does your organization have diversity amongst its board and executive leadership? Can you see this reflected within your workplace? And diversity is, again, having women on the board, women in the C-suite executive levels, women of color, Indigenous women within those spaces, diverse individuals, neurodivergent individuals, persons with disabilities. Do you see a multifaceted approach of diverse individuals at this level? And if the results can be posted, if everybody's awesome, there you go. Again, kind of neck and neck tie for yes, no, and unsure. And coming up the rear is working on implementing. This is great. I appreciate your responses. Thank you for interacting with us through our polls. It gives me a good idea of where we're at out there. So capturing the opportunities. I'm going to talk to leadership opportunities, some policy opportunities, and the leadership opportunities is, I'm not going to read these all out. I'm going to have you take a peek at them, is, around leadership, board level, setting performance goals, being a champion, being an ally, ensure pay equity, etc. There's, these are some really just key steps for leadership. This isn't all inclusive, but these are amazing spaces to really delve into and look at if you're a leader, if not, to be able to bring to your leadership to say, hey, are we doing these things? Be a champion and ask your leadership at where they're at with all of these things. Policymaker opportunities. This specifically talks about, I would say, sort of like the top 12 policies that support diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in the workplace. Again, I'm not going to go through them all, but you can quickly read through here that it, like I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the presentation, this isn't just about having a diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging policy. There's a lot more that can provide the support necessary to address some of those barriers, concerns that we saw in the statistics that I shared with you earlier. And these policies, if you don't have all of these policies, again, I'd be looking to, your leadership, to your human resource team to look at, as well as, bring to the board as well, because your board should be concerned and being able to support their leadership in ensuring that these policies are being covered. Individual opportunities is becoming aware of your unconscious bias. That's a huge one. Again, demanding pay equity if that doesn't exist within your workplace. Acknowledging holidays of all cultures, not just Euro-Canadian or, you know, things that don't fit all cultures. You know, that is including National Indigenous Day, which is September 30th of every single year. Looking at women of color, diverse individuals, holidays, you know, just different things like that. There's a ton of them in our resources section. You're going to see a bunch of opportunities to read about what else is out there to celebrate and to support within your organization. So as an individual, these are things that you can do, be an ally in, be a champion for, lead, and participate in and bring into your workforce. Here are the resources that you're going to find on the Bridge to Gender Equality Project webpage. It's our anti-racism resources, our Indigenous resources, our 2S LGBTQ2+ resources. We have specific resources for that is women in leadership based, our diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging resources, remote working policy, employee commitment policy, gender equality policies, and some sample interview questions. Again, these are all resources that are available to you without any expense. They're free of charge. They're not all inclusive, but they're a really great beginning. We also have a list of various consultants in the diversity, equity, inclusion space, and their contact information. So if you need support that is external to the organization, we have provided a handful nationally for you to get in touch with to hopefully guide these spaces if you need that external support. Last poll number 4. Michelle, if you could launch this. It's how are diverse individuals being supported for advancement within your organization? Your answers are unsure, through policies, through education, training, mentorship, allyship, or all or some of the above. If you could take a quick moment and answer these questions, I'd greatly appreciate it. And Michelle, kind of once that's done, if we could post the results. Excellent, thank you. Well, and I think this demonstrates the response to this demonstrates that there's a bit of work to be done if we're this unsure about what's going on within our organizations. You know, again, we need to be allies, leaders, champions in these spaces and create some calls to action for our human resources, for our leadership, for our boards to undertake. Okay, coming to a close, we're going to talk about the few spaces of our calls to action. That's a Transforming the Workplace pledge. Scan the QR code or go to the link that was provided. Like I said, take a look at it, sign the pledge, bring it to your leadership, connect with Women in Leadership Foundation once you send in the pledge, and we'll be able to continue our relationship and support the space moving forward. We'd appreciate you also sharing this opportunity with your network as well. You can find out more on our social media channels, on the website, etc. And again, feel free to share this pledge and this opportunity with as many as possible in your network to get more transformation happening in their workplaces. By signing this pledge, your organization will commit to the following areas. and look to transforming, again, your workplace through these commitments. Again, Women in Leadership will work with you over the next 3 to 4 months to look at where support is needed, and etc. I'm not going to go into the details just because I'm very cognizant of the time. I want to leave some space for question and answers, as well as speak to some other areas. Benefits to signing our pledge is showcasing your commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging for women in the workplace. Receiving the Transforming the Workplace digital badge for you to use and all of your communications. Enhance your brand as a progressive employer on the Women in Leadership Foundation's website with a company listing that you can also use to promote yourself and say and share what amazing work you're doing. Engage in a path of support, receive a complimentary check-in upon signing, sign up for our complimentary information sessions, receive a progress survey, be a part of the Women Leadership's incredible and supportive community. And those are listed below. So there's many benefits to be had by signing the pledge and becoming part of the Women in Leadership Network. So far, we have had these organizations sign our pledge. Of course, our organization has, the Women in Leadership Foundation, To Be Good has signed, IBM has signed, and SAIT has signed the pledge. So we've had some beautiful organizations that want to be a part of transforming their workplaces and making the commitment and working with women in leadership to transform those workplaces. Transforming the Workplace Allyship webinar. We are hosting this webinar on December 13th, 2023, between 10 and 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time via Zoom. Follow Women in Leadership for updates. It is, you can register for that through the Women in Leadership website events page. You could also find more about it on social media channels as well. Again, feel free to share. We have 3 amazing men that will be joining us from various sectors of corporate Canada to speak to their commitments in being an ally and champion for diversity, equity, inclusion. Because without these male allies within the workforce, as executive, C-suite, board individuals, it can be a struggle to do this work. So we would like to highlight the spaces and where these individuals have committed to this space, also the space of reconciliation within their workforce. So come join us on that day. Again, don't feel shy. Share with your larger networks on social media, etc., and register for this amazing webinar. This is a quick video about allyship. Oh.
Steve, Leanne, is there sound to this? Because we didn't hear it on our end, just FYI.
Sorry about that. I just realized as you asked that, yeah, it probably wasn't going through, but you get the gist of it. Long and short of it is it's important to be an ally within space, within the workplace. We can be allies everywhere. It's not just within the workforce or the workplace. Being an ally is a requirement, I think, of all Canadians to create the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging spaces in every space that we hold. But the long and short of it around allyship is that action-based, calling out individuals that are not, are probably sharing negative behavior, racism, discrimination, oppression of those marginalized individuals. That was the long and short of that video. Sorry, my bad on the sound. But to close off, so we can jump into some Q&A, is Women in Leadership has worked very diligently over this project. And over the many years that Women in Leadership has been around in existence, which has been a couple of decades, look to, again, the leadership development program, the mentoring program, become a member of the WIL chapters, become a volunteer of our chapters. The chapters do not exist without volunteers, without that volunteer space, without those individuals supporting women in leadership in the chapters. We don't have amazing events. We don't celebrate Women in Leadership Day. We're not celebrating all of the other cultural spaces that we support as women in leadership. Sign up for our newsletter, which brings you to many spaces within our blog posts. And, as national projects and other regional or chapter things come up, again, be a part of that change. Get involved, volunteer, become a mentor, become a mentee, recommend a mentee. There's just, again, so many spaces to participate within the leadership, within our foundation, our projects, within our events, etc. Become a partner. There's, again, just so many beautiful spaces to belong. The Bridge to Gender, just so everybody knows, our project funding ends March 31st, 2024. So please commit now to transforming your workplace, because once our funding from WAGE runs out, the project team ceases to exist, and we won't exist physically to support this space. So get involved now, sign the pledge, commit now, hopefully, as we look to other project funding and sponsors and corporate sponsors and partners, that this will continue, but you will find out in after fiscal year end next year. But again, Women in Leadership has been extremely successful over the years to continue to do this work in a beautiful way. So thank you so much for listening and taking the time to hear me and see my presentation. I'm going to stop share so that we can all be back on the screen and answer any questions that you might have, whether it's about this project, about the pledge, Women in Leadership. Please don't hesitate. Michelle, is there anything that's coming up that?
No, there's none in the chat.
Okay.
There was a hand up. Noha, did you have a question? Do you want to unmute yourself or put it in the chat?
Actually, thank you. I clapped, but since you asked me, let me talk about the evaluation. You talked about a few rubrics to evaluate actions, like it is every company has a policy for EDI and like a champion for it, but in practice sometimes you're not able to really realize what difference it makes with or without the policy. My question would be, in that case, general rubric would work, or we should have conversation around whatever relate to EDI that concerns us. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. I think a rubric or metrics of measurement are important, like you mentioned, because then again, it creates this accountability, this transparency, the responsibility of those involved in this space to have that feedback provided to them, to let them know where they are in this journey, how much more work. One is what they're doing, working. If not, why not? If so, great. How? In what ways? And more importantly, what path do you continue down, right? If something isn't working, what needs to shift, change, transform? What needs to be implemented? What policies may need to shift or transform or be brought in, etc. Right? Having those metrics is very important because again, you don't have a business case to stand on then moving forward to make the changes necessary, to get the resources to do that work. And communication of that is also, again, immensely important. I think everyone in the organization needs to know that this transformation is happening, that these commitments are taking place, and that it actually, what is being implemented is actually working. Because that's important, again, to create a culture of safety and belonging and inclusion. One needs to be able to hear that, see that, witness it. And that information absolutely needs to be shared out there. Just mindful of the time. Hopefully that somewhat answered your question or gave a bit of information.
It's a great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions that come up or you'd like to know more about from the Women in Leadership Foundation or the work that we're doing in this particular project or others or future work that we might be doing? Any recommendations? Also, we're super open to what is possible as well in the future. So if none, if I don't see any hands or questions in the chat, don't hesitate. If something comes up later, feel free to reach out to the team. Our information is on the website. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. Again, if you don't want to publicly ask anything and do want to reach out to us privately, feel free to do so. But again, I encourage you to, there we go. Michelle has provided her email directly to you in the chat. Feel free to reach out to her. And then anything that may be directed directly towards me, she can pass on to me through her email. That would be greatly appreciated. If not, I'm going to close the session and we can end 5 minutes early. Again, thank you so much, OCM, for being here, for taking the time. Hopefully we provided you some great information and resources for you to move forward in this space. And again, happy to hear the feedback. If there is feedback for us for room for improvement, I'm happy to hear that as well. So thank you again, everybody, and everybody have a wonderful, well, for me, it's a wonderful afternoon, but have a great day. Take care, OCM.